All right, welcome to episode 44. I'm Katrina.
And I'm Todd.
Thanks for listening or watching. We're at the very end of our soccer season. And our coach of the week this time, sponsored by Exquisite Irrigations and Lawn, is none other than Mr. Curtis Hahn. Curtis, he coaches two teams. He coaches a kinder team and he coaches an older division team, 3rd through 5th grade. And he won the championship this week in 3rd through 5th grade.
He's worthy of Coach of the Week.
He is. He's worthy. He had a doubleheader as well this week. He played at 11:45. He won that game, and then he turned right back around, and he played at 1 o'clock. And I'll tell you what, man, his wife was out of town this week, which meant he had all 3 kids in tow. He was at the field for his kindergarten game. Then he served in the concession stand because it was his turn. His team's turn, and then he turned back around and coached 2 games, and it wasn't what he did, but it was how he did it, and he did it with a heart of service to God's kingdom and to our soccer league. So, Curtis Hahn, great job. You are this week's Coach of the Week, sponsored by Exquisite Irrigations and Lawns. If you're in the DFW area and you're looking for a quality irrigation and landscaping company to work for, look no further than Exquisite Irrigations and Lawn. They do a great job. They do our fields, and just contact Derek Hicks for all of your landscaping and irrigation needs.
All right. And this week's Player of the Week, sponsored by Lionheart. I don't know that I've ever known a true life kindergarten ninja, but this week we get to know a little bit about our Player of the Week, who is a kindergartner who plays for the Ninjas, and that's Jonah. Jonah, you did a fantastic job all season. I'm going to tell you, Jonah, when you're watching this and all the families, what was said about you, because they use words like grit and resiliency.
Yeah.
Your coach thought you did a fantastic job. And by the way, one thing that was pointed out is that even when you fell down, you would get all the way back on defense. You would hustle all the way back to play just great defense. So that is a player after my own heart, someone who hustles back and does those kinds of things. For your efforts this week, Jonah, you are our Player of the Week, sponsored by Lionheart. And Lionheart is such a great entity that we have here. They are a Christian-based child care program. They cater to your needs in a biblical way.
Yeah.
They've been around for over a decade. Go check them out at lionheartkid.org. See what they have to offer. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, and shout out to Jonah's parents as well. They are an extremely involved set of moms and dads. Actually, he only has one mom and dad. But man, he's a hustler.
Yeah.
He's a hustler, and he may well be the best player in the kindergarten division.
Is that right?
Yeah, dude, he's a baller.
Yeah.
But he does it in a very, just very sportsman-like way. Like, he's solid.
Right.
And he's solid because his parents are solid.
Yeah.
So, parents, good job.
Hey, speaking of which, we will take that solid person over the solid player every day of the week.
Yep, for sure.
Which leads us into what we're talking a little bit about today. Last week we went through some scenarios. How'd you feel about that, by the way?
I feel like I did okay.
You did pretty good. You did pretty good.
For someone who's never been through those situations,
yes,
I hope that's how I would respond, is how I gave answers. So if you did not watch or listen to last week's episode, go back and listen to it. Todd just kind of quizzed me on, youth sports circumstances that you likely will find yourself in if you're a youth sport parent, and how you would handle it. What would you do?
Yeah, and so since we focused last week on the parent side of things, we're going to throw something else into it this week, and that is the role of coach, which you have been as well. Now we're going to look at what's the difference. How should we behave as a parent versus how we should behave as a coach, and what does that look like specifically? So, if I were to throw that, I have the Webster's Dictionary definition of both parent and coach, but in your own words, What do you think that is?
Well, I think a coach is someone who is supposed to be for the entire team, whereas a parent is probably only for their child. Not only, I mean, they're for the overall, well-being of the team, but more specifically their child.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
I love Taya, hands down, right? But like, as the whole Turf Smurfs team that she was on, I mean, I will eventually get to know them and love them. But I'm probably only watching Taya on the field or on the basketball court or wherever she's playing.
Yeah.
Whereas the coach is looking for the entirety of the team and what's best for the team.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you that Merriam-Webster says a coach is defined as one who instructs or trains.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Specific to sports, one who instructs players in the fundamentals of a sport and directs team strategy. So that is the
Team strategy.
That is the definition
Yeah.
of coach. Okay. So now, parent, according to Webster, a person who brings up and cares for another.
Cares for another. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crucial.
Yeah. So,
Over a lifetime, not just a specific
and
season.
that's where we're going with
Yeah.
this. Because yes, a coach, for the most part, the coach is interested in what your child is doing for the few months, right? Now, obviously, we can come back and play for that coach again and again and
Right.
again, and there can be relationships that develop there. But for the most part, coaches are interested in what you can do during that time. And listen, there's a lot of good coaches out there they're interested in the child as well, not just the player.
Yeah.
But that's not typically a lifetime, deal. Like the parents are the people that are there to speak into and be there for that child
Yeah.
and their interest for good, right?
Yeah.
So our coach is like you picked up on it. They're responsible for strategy, right? So as a parent of a child who's an athlete, do you talk strategy? Should you talk strategy with your child?
As it applies to fundamentals, I mean, you can talk if you know the sport. You know the sport, like for instance, I know basketball. I can teach Taya, dribbling skills.
Okay.
I can teach her the proper shooting form, right?
Yeah.
But I should never teach Taya like a game day strategy.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Because again, I'm not the coach. So like, I look at this as, you're going down the highway and you've got lanes. Like you've got, whether it be a 2-lane road or a 4-lane road. I really think that coaches and parents, let's just go with parents. Parents need to do a better job of staying in their lane.
You've seen examples of this.
I've seen examples of this over the past 17 years. I have. There is a lane that the coach drives down, and then there is a lane that the parent drives down. I think, during a sports season, both of them are headed in the same direction. But the overall way to get there, like the parent is looking for a strategy to get their kid somewhere, right?
Right. Correct.
But a coach is looking to get a team somewhere.
Right.
So to answer your question, no. Like I don't think parents should talk strategy. Let's be specific. Game day strategy
Right.
with their kid, unless that's been communicated from a coach to a parent.
Okay.
Okay. Then if it's been communicated and if the coach says, hey guys, this is our strategy, these are the plays, right? Like, in flag football, you send maybe you're a coach that is highly invested and you make a playbook and you send the playbook home, right? These are the plays. I want you to get with your kid and go over the plays so that come practice, that's completely appropriate.
Okay.
That's kind of the same, similar to, a teacher and a parent type role.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, agreed. In fact, that's what I listed here under roles, that a coach is there to lead and teach. Good coaches are good educators.
Yeah.
With a strong vision.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's similar to a teacher like you're
Right.
talking about. Can a coach step out of his lane? You mentioned the lanes and how parents can step out of their lane. Can a coach do that?
I think a coach can care about a kid. But I think it's also important, like if there is a strong level of parental involvement, that coach needs to talk to that parent to make sure they're on the same page.
Yeah.
Like as far as, caring for the kid.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you have a lot of kids who don't have a good home background, right? Like
Right.
there's
Right.
not much support at home.
Yeah.
And so can a coach step in and become a parental figure? I think we've seen that a lot. Like I've seen
Yeah.
that a lot over my lifetime, specifically in high school,
Right.
where, some of my teammates did not have good home lives.
Yeah. But have you seen the reverse where, let's say, we parent in a 2-parent family, my wife and I, and I'm sending my child to be coached on this team and this sport, and a coach takes maybe an overactive place in my child and starts asking them about things that, as a parent, I would say, hang on, you're a coach, you're not
Yeah.
this child's parent, you shouldn't be giving advice on this or that. Can that happen?
Oh, 100% it can happen. But that's why I say, like, it's crucial. Like, if a coach wants to invest in a kid that way, I think it's very important to make sure that they have a relationship
Yeah.
with the mom and dad first
Right.
to make sure they're both going down the same route.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Makes complete
Because,
sense.
as a parent, I know that you guys have great relationships with your boys, right? And you are a great father figure to your boys and Macy. But, there's sometimes when a kid will hear something different from a coach
Yeah.
than they will you, even though
Yes.
you've said it about 20 different times, right?
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
different ways.
Right.
Hearing from a coach, it hits differently.
Yes, it does.
But I think too, like it's so important to, for a coach to be strategic and making sure that, hey, this is what I'm picking up on,
Right.
with little Johnny,
Right.
mom or dad, do you see the same thing too?
Yes.
And would it be okay if
Yeah.
X, Y, Z?
Yeah, and I really love your analogy to teachers because it's very similar to that.
Yeah.
Same thing where teachers pick up on children in classrooms, and it's easy to fall into that role where you're almost a parent to a child in a classroom
Right.
sometimes because of what they're going through.
Yeah.
So I like that analogy. Okay, so let me ask you this about specifically about Taya. How old? Let's see. How do I word this? Are you willing to coach her up until a certain age?
Well, her dad coaches her right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that, I probably have any business coaching her or really Dean coaching her. Probably, I don't know. I'd say at least junior high is where I stop.
Sure, yeah.
Depending on the pool of coaches
Right.
in 5th and 6th.
Well, no, you hit on something because we depend on volunteers
Exactly.
for coaches in our
Yeah.
league, right? And sometimes, not sometimes, every time we get to the end of a registration season and we're like, okay, who are we going to get to coach this team? And so, yes, the pool of applicants can sometimes be shallow.
Yeah.
But assuming that there's plenty of coaches to go around, like what goes through your mind when you think, should I coach Taya or not? Like what would be the things that say, no, I don't know that I should?
If we get to, I think every family has either gone through this or will go through this. We're not currently going through this, but I know that, she's only 6. So
Right.
if there's a rough spot, where maybe she needs to hear from somebody different.
Yeah.
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I think character-wise, and I'm thinking up into 5th or 6th grade, right?
Yeah, right.
So not necessarily skill,
Right.
but in teaching the character virtues of what a sport can bring you and teach you. If we're in a rough spot and she needs to hear from somebody different,
Yeah.
then if the pool of applicants are abundant, then I probably would stand down.
You would bow out, yeah.
Yeah, I would stand down.
Well, okay, so I ask you because as we talk about coaches and parents, it's just in my experience, you see, and I'll use baseball as an example. guys that have maybe coached their kids at an early age and then turn them over as they get a little bit older. And when they do that, they have a hard time sitting on their hands in the stands.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
Yes.
and a lot of times those same kids are they're the first ones to look up in the stands when they make a mistake. And so it
Because
can be,
they're used to it.
yeah. And it can be a tricky situation. So I was looking at some things on should I coach my child? And I came across this, some questions you should ask yourself.
Yeah.
Number one, it can be a great bonding experience for parent-child.
Sure.
So if that's something that you think you can get a positive experience out of, my child and I, if let's say I don't take my kid camping, but we bond over baseball, then we're going to go to the baseball fields and I can spend time in practice and whatnot. So it can be a positive experience. But your expectations may be higher for your child than they are for everyone else on the team.
Okay, thinking back over the past 17 years, it is hard for me to think of someone that has not had that mindset.
Yeah.
That has not been harder or had more expectations on their child than all of the other children. And I think it just goes back to that, again, talking about the parent lane, right?
Yeah.
Like if you are a parent and you're coaching your kid,
Right.
that's a double lane, if you will, like you're going to be harder on your kid. While at the same time, you are trying to look out for the interest of everyone on your team. That's hard.
It's hard. I think parents get into coaching because they want the best for their kids. And
yes, especially if they're volunteer like that. I mean, that's the main thing, right? Like,
but sometimes that's such a slippery slope because I've seen so many times where you're like, coach's kid hadn't gotten a hit all year and they're still hitting leadoff in the lineup, because we, as parents, I'll include myself in this. Like you want to see your child succeed. You want to see your child do the best. And so it's hard when you might say, okay, Joey, who lives next door as a neighbor, hasn't hit all year. He's going to hit 9th in the lineup. It's different when it's your son and you're like, oh, well, he'll figure it out.
Is it though? I mean, like okay, so you just gave that example. And like, I'm thinking like, if that was true for Taya, if she had not had a hit all year and I put her number 1 on the lineup, like, what kind of blinders do I have on as a parent? Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen that?
Oh, absolutely. I have.
How is that the case?
Absolutely. I have.
So, that's hard.
That's
tough. Hard.
It's tough. And all of the things that we've talked about competition and how we are as a society, we have a hard time. Now, I've seen the opposite. I've seen parents that coach and they put their kids in situations where, look, you're really good, but let's give this other kid a chance to play this position or whatever. So, it goes both ways, but absolutely I see it where parents that coach will do that with their children.
And regardless of the situation, as a coach, you are still scrutinized to some extent.
Oh, if you think that
hard.
There's not parents in the stands whispering to each other about how long do we have to watch this kid hit?
Yes.
That happens every week.
Yeah.
So and then so this is a good one. Is the other parent just as involved as you are as the coach? And so here's what I mean by that.
That's a great question.
Let's say you and Dean is coaching. Are you on the sideline wearing the jerseys, cheering up and down, and just as involved as Dean is as a coach? I say that as you're wearing your jersey.
I mean, I'm going to say no.
Yeah?
Because again, if you are on the sidelines wearing your jersey, if you're me a month ago who caught myself not being able to sit down where I was and watch a game without running back and forth wherever the ball was, like I caught myself doing, I could not sit still. I was only cheering for Taya.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm a league administrator, right? But I was only cheering for Taya.
Yeah.
Whereas the coach, like he's trying to get all of the players involved and in the right spot so that they can succeed.
Yeah.
So it's not just about one person, but it's the whole team. Like, so I'm going to say no.
Okay.
No.
So here's where I'm going with this. I'll use my wife as an example because the article I was reading talks about how if both parents are equally as over invested in what's going on, then there's really no outlet for that child to be normal outside of the bounds of the game, right? And so like when I go watch a game and my wife comes with me and we're watching a high school baseball game, she likes to keep score. And the reason she likes to keep score is because she learned years ago how to do it, because otherwise she'll like wander off somewhere like that. That's just, but she likes to keep score. And so when she writes Colin's name down on the scorebook, she puts a heart next to it.
You told me that before.
Yeah, right. So that's what she does. She doesn't really care whether he strikes out, gets a hit.
She does.
Well, she cares for him.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it. When he's done with the game and he comes home, she's way more interested in, are you happy? Are you okay? Are you like, she couldn't care less about like how he actually performed,
Yeah.
other than, is he just happy?
Right.
Right. Like she doesn't know, just because she's had so many boys that she's been made to watch sports so much.
Yeah.
And watch them play. She's learned a lot about it. But she's way more interested in them being happy and, did you get your homework done and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so the article I was reading just kind of alluded to that if you have one parent that is coaching a child, they need to be able to have another parent who absolutely doesn't even care to talk about it. Like, not that they won't, not that they're supportive or not supportive, but that it's a different direction completely. And so we can sit around the dinner table and I should not have the ability to sit at a dinner table and question my child over why didn't you catch that sign to steal or whatever it is. And it's healthy for them to have another parent that is not that invested, because you do see coaches and their wife is the team mom, and she's at the front of the fence, and she's ringing that cowbell, and that poor kid, when he messes up, both parents are equally completely invested.
Yeah.
So
now you're not making a case for one parent to go to the game and the other parent not to go to the game. That's not what we're saying.
You can completely support your child
Yeah.
without being completely. Both parents don't need to sit there and question that child about why they did what they did.
Yeah, and I mean I've learned that this season in soccer, and last season during basketball season, I would ask Taya how she felt like she did, and like she was like, oh yeah. She didn't want to talk about it.
She's not really.
Like she has moved on.
Yeah.
She's moved on. Like not even thinking twice about it.
Yeah.
And as a parent, I would ask her again, right? I would bring it back up. Same thing. And so like that is a prime example of how like you as a parent probably care way more about your child's play than they ever will, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm on the basketball court, if I'm on the soccer field and I'm saying shoot, and they miss, I'm like, oh, you hear the crowd say, oh.
Yeah.
And for Taya, like she's like, oh, I'll get it next time,
Right.
She's just out there to have fun.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned this season.
Yeah.
I think that Taya is way more into fun and her friends than she is in the competition part of things.
Yeah. Right. I think, what's funny is I was going through this list of should you coach your child or not, because I have too, in several different sports. And I was thinking about the time that Colin was he was playing just little league rec ball with his friends. I don't even remember how old he was, but he was fairly young. And they won the championship. We won the championship. I was coaching on that team. And my biggest memory from that season is after we won, we went back to the house and I bought us 2 bottled root beers, and we sat on the back porch and had root beers.
That's awesome.
that was the biggest thing that we remember from that
that's
season.
Awesome.
That you can bond over that without, because you can go the other way where like if your child doesn't perform well, especially if he's on your team and you lose, like it can ruin your whole day, and that's just not healthy at all. Okay, so as continuing on with the theme, as a parent, after the game is over with, the coach does what? He gets all of the kids together and
Yeah.
they have a discussion after the game, right? At what age should parents stop being a part of that discussion?
Oh man, that's a great question. That's a great question. This is my opinion. I think, no sooner than elementary. Like, I think that should continue at least up until elementary school.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, agreed. I think at some point you have to give those kids some breathing space to take some responsibility for themselves. And obviously, until they reach driving age, like I'm responsible for getting them to the games and all that kind of stuff. But I can remember, I think around 13, 14 is when we started hearing coaches. And I loved this, by the way. At the beginning of the season, the coaches would say, here's my phone number. You may call me anytime you want. I'll answer any question you want. But after the game is over, and also during the game, don't come anywhere near my team.
This is to the parents and not to the players.
Correct.
Yeah. Right.
They specifically addressed the parents and told them, don't come to our discussion after the game.
Yeah.
Because that's my time with these boys, and I don't need parents listening to what it is that we're talking about. Not because they're talking about anything bad, but you're trying to teach those kids accountability and help grow them up in the sport.
Yeah. Agreed. 13, 14. So that's the same.
Yeah.
Junior high.
Yeah. About then. So, and by the way, like, do you do that? Do you get over there and listen to the huddle at the end of the game to hear, what the coach has to say?
In my role, I probably can't because I'm doing 1,000 other things.
If you weren't doing that, would you?
Yes.
I guess is okay.
Yes.
And what do you hope to hear?
For a 6-year-old, I would hope to hear only the things that they've done right.
Yeah.
And whether or not they had fun.
Okay, so that's a good point. Like, what do you do as a parent if you get to that huddle after the game of an elementary age school child, and it's not? It is a negative experience where they're saying you've got to do this better, you've got to do that better. Not that it's a negative experience, but it's more of that negative connotation about these are the things that we need to work on.
Yeah, I would say that I would have to do a ton of work trying to undo what the coach has done. So that would be a lot of just affirmation over and over again about things that I saw that they did well.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot of work.
Okay.
Because for every like 7 positive things that you say, you drop one negative thing and it erases all of those positive things that you said.
Right.
There would have to be a lot of work done to try to, because our purpose is we want every kid to have a positive sports experience.
Yeah.
And if at 6 and 7 years old, the coach is only saying the things that they have done poorly at, or the reasons why they lost, like that's not a positive sports experience.
Right. Okay, so along those lines, I have 5 coaching strategies for working with parents.
All right.
Not 5 strategies on how to make your team better, not 5 strategies on how to deal with your athletes, 5 strategies to deal with parents. Okay. Yeah. Number 1 is teach parents about the sport.
That's crucial.
Okay. So that means making sure they know the rules. Yeah. Making sure that they know what skills you're trying to develop to be better about the sport. Those kinds of things where, because we've seen it where, I'll use the clock as an example. If you're a parent and you don't know that we keep a running clock until the last minute of the game, for example, and you're up yelling at the clock operator.
Yeah, you're looking like an idiot.
Yeah. Which could all be avoided.
Right.
If the parents educate them on the rules.
And all of this is predicated on the fact that like the coach does communicate. Like they do lay their expectations out.
Yes.
Like they do expect a level of parental involvement to some extent, right? So that's crucial to understand.
and we're getting to that part too. So number one is just teach them about the sport
Yeah.
itself, the rules of the game. Number two, develop a code of conduct for the parents, and that is, I've seen coaches that say, I implement a 24-hour rule. So if you're upset about playing time or the way I handled your kid in a certain situation, give it 24
Yeah.
hours and then email me or call me, but not until then.
Right.
So some kind of code of conduct. Coaches in our league, we have
We
a
do.
code of conduct, but individually, coaches can say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I will not tolerate this,"
Yeah.
and that's best to say up front.
Yeah.
Right. Number three, establish a two-way communication with parents. That is so vital because if there is not some sort of communication highway between the two of you, it will go somewhere.
Yeah.
The parents are going to complain to someone.
Yeah.
A lot of times that will be other parents, and then you're just asking for issues
for
at that
sure.
point. And we have coaches that we've seen that won't communicate with their parents
Right.
at all. It needs to be a two-way street.
Yep.
Number four, educate parents on positive parenting behaviors. What do those look like? Positive parenting behaviors. How would you educate somebody as a coach on that?
Positive parenting behaviors. I mean, I think that Brooke Britton said it, a couple of podcast episodes ago where she, the very first thing that kids need to hear out of their parents' mouth are, I think it's 5 words. I love to watch you play. However many words that is.
Yeah.
That's what they need to hear first.
Right.
Cheering from the sidelines, not, directing on the sidelines, not coaching on the sidelines, but just cheering loudly. Obviously, profanity is a negative impact.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And there's things too, like my coaching processes. One of the things that every time that I coach a team, one of the things that I emphasize is being on time to practice.
Yeah.
If you show up 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, everyone sees it. You're missing out on some things, and you're telling everybody that it's not that important that I get there on time. And that is largely a conversation with parents because most of the time it's not the kids.
Yeah.
But what you do is you explain to the parents, this is one of my processes that matter to me. Be on time.
Yeah.
That's teaching the kids something
Yeah.
and enlist their help and trying to reinforce that.
Yep.
And educate your parents on those kinds of behaviors. Independence is another thing that I like to emphasize when I coach, just making sure that those kids are learning how to make decisions on their own, right? And so enlist the help of the parents. Anytime you get an opportunity to offer that child a chance to make a decision on their own, support it and help me along those lines.
That's good.
And then the fifth thing is hold a parent meeting at the very beginning of the year. It always surprises me, coaches that don't have a parent meeting, because how are you going to be on the same page with your parents if you don't hold that initial meeting?
Yeah.
And then you can have additional meetings throughout the year as needed, but always do it that first point.
Agreed.
So, okay, so I just wrote down some overall thoughts about what a coach is and what a parent is. But before I say these to finish out, how do you handle it as an administrator when you have an issue between a coach and a parent?
Well, I try to hear, the first thing that I do is I try to hear both sides separately.
Okay.
I think that we had this past Saturday in soccer where there was an issue, and I heard both the coach's side, and then I also went and I heard the parent side, and it depends on kind of the vibe. Like if it's if the problem subsided, then I just let it fuse out. But if it's something that could potentially amp up more, then I probably would say, okay, look, here is your role in this situation. I know that you see it this way, but this is actually what's going on. Right.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you said about staying in your lane, coach and parent, and that's what we're going to talk about here for a second. We need to remember that respect is a big part of this. Like if I'm a coach, I need to respect the fact that this child belongs to that parent. They have a much bigger interest in the future of this child than I do. That's their kiddo.
Yeah.
And as a parent, I need to respect the fact that this coach, like you said, they're in charge of the whole team, not just your child.
Right.
And so there's some boundaries there that you have to remember
Right.
to show respect for. So overall, this is what a coach is responsible for: skill development, team building,
Yeah.
positive role modeling, and fair and equitable treatment. Right. And so when you think of those things in terms of a parent, not so much. I mean, we have parents that have never played a sport before, and they can't contribute to skill. So that's where the coaches come in, and like I said, building that team. So here's what a parent is responsible for: emotional support of the child. When that child has a bad game, and they're in tears after the game.
Yeah.
Of course, a coach can step in that space, but way more important is a parent to step into that space. Again, positive role modeling, which is for both.
Same. Yeah.
Open communication. Open communication is big as a parent because the whole idea of sports is to learn a little something, right? We've talked at length about how it's not about wins and losses, but about learning character traits and positive things as you grow that you can use. And one of those things that people struggle with all the time is communication.
Yeah.
And if I can have a bad game as a young athlete and still be able to communicate with my parent, man, you are learning.
Yeah.
You're learning a lot about how to deal with adversity.
Well, and two, I mean, you're able to process those thoughts and feelings more if you feel safe enough to have a conversation out loud, right?
Yeah, right.
And that's crucial in just the learning of character and the virtues, you know, like understanding why you got to that place and how you feel and how those thoughts and feelings affect your play moving forward and how you process things. It's crucial. And I mean, I think that just goes back to the conversation that we have after the game with our kids. Like if we're just pointing our fingers and reminding them of all the bad things that they did, they likely, I mean, if they care, they likely are already thinking those things.
Yeah.
They're not going to process those things out loud.
Right.
So to your point, like kids need a safe place to process their losses and their failures. Because again, we know that, I mean, it's failures that grow us. Like it's failures that breed the success that we want in our lives.
Right.
But if we can't process them accordingly, then it just creates a wall.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can think back in my own life where if I make a mistake, if I drop a ball or boot a ball, if I don't have the ability to communicate that with someone, how did that make me feel? What do I need to do to change that? If I just have somebody that speaks into me that says that was a terrible play, I'm afraid to go make that play the next time the ball's hit to me, right? So I need to be able to process through some of that.
Yeah.
Not just let the coach be the strategist that he is and talk to the player about that. But as a parent, they don't need to hear it again.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
you. And lastly, as a parent, support the coach. Support the coach. And we heard who was it? I can't remember who it was that was in here talking to us about this before, but the chances are pretty good that the coaches know what they're doing. And so,
Scott.
It was Scott. It was Scott.
Yeah.
So trust them.
Yeah.
Trust them that they know what they're talking about and that they can handle your child. It's really, really easy to sit in the stands and Monday morning quarterback and second guess decisions that are made and all that kind of stuff. And I have done it 100 times.
Yeah.
But I'm way, way better now about just, you know what? It's a game. It's not that big a deal. And at the end of the day, seeing my kiddo come off, if he's smiling, great.
Yeah.
If he's not, then as a parent, I probably have some work to do. And that doesn't start with the tactics that
it has nothing to do with game day strategy or what should have been done.
Right.
It has everything to do with your ability to emotionally engage with that child and process what they're thinking and feeling.
Yeah. And to end this, I will tell you that I would encourage you that the job that you have done with this ministry and providing that kind of environment is really, really, it's just been a tremendous experience for a lot of families, including mine. And the fact that we continue to emphasize those positive experiences and we keep a pretty short leash on our coaches. I mean, we don't ever really have to do anything with it.
Yeah.
But occasionally you do. But for the most part, they understand going into it what our expectations are, and the positive experiences that we have in our leagues. That's a testimony to what you've done.
Yeah. Well, and someone this last week, they were just telling me how, they have had a positive experience. And I just listened to them. But this is what I wish I would have said. You ever have those conversations?
Yeah.
Yes, we do have, a coach's covenant. We do have a parent code of conduct. We do have a coach's training. We do keep a short leash, all those things. But at the end of the day, we do bathe our league and the game days specifically in prayer.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say we can do everything that's in our power to communicate and to provide guardrails and all of those things. But if the Holy Spirit doesn't step in on game day and physically be with us, be with the coaches, every game day before we play, whether it be basketball or soccer or now flag football in the fall, we pray because we know that sports breeds competition and competition breeds tension and all those things.
Yeah.
And so the compliment that, you guys are doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. That honestly, that's credited to Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is the one that this league is for. He is the one that is present. He is the one that's providing coverage and protection and all of those things. We have a part to do for sure, but ultimately he's the one that provides the way.
Yeah. And that shows up over and over again. I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, like we always stare down the barrel of not having enough coaches or what are we going to do about refs this week? Or he always provides.
Yeah.
He always provides.
Yep.
All right. So if you're a coach, be a coach. If you're a parent, be a parent. If you're both, good luck. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. Like there are strategies, right? And most importantly, figure out what's best for your own situation with your child.
For your home team.
Yeah, for your home team.
Yeah.
Win with the home team.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not best. Maybe it's not a good season for you to coach your child. Those are decisions that are made on the fly. But hopefully, as we've talked about here today, we can see that those are two different dynamics.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for episode 44. We look forward to seeing you guys as the ticker gets closer to 50, guys. So next time we'll see you for 45. Have a great day.
All right. See you guys.
Man, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed hearing us ramble about youth sports or other strangely interesting sports topics related to families, please go and like and subscribe to the show so that you can get regular updates when a new podcast is released. We'd also love to connect with you. Head on over to our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're under LC Sports and Recreation.
And if you're new to our podcast, go check out some of our previous episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There's some good stuff on there. And pay attention because these come out pretty quickly, weekly, as a matter of fact. And you're going to learn a lot about what we have to say with regards to our league and how to win with the home team.